So our video today is actually with the director of Kidscape. I'm going to do a little bit at the end as well, but here's our interview. Enjoy! So I'm here today with Claude, who is the director of Kidscape, and I'm going to sort of give you a little bit more about Kidscape. So Claude, what is Kidscape?
Well, Kidscape is a small children's charity that was set up in 1984-5 by our founder Michelle Elliott, and it's been dealing with child protection issues and anti-bullying issues now for 26 years.
Okay, so what is it that Kidscape do?
Kidscape's real mission is you know, in a nutshell, is to protect children. But the main issues, as I say, that we deal with would be you know, anti-bullying ones, and it's not just about producing posters and books and resources. It's very much about practical strategies and tooling up young people, really giving them a way forward to empower them to actually, you know, in a sense, regain their self-esteem, to make them feel that although they've been bullied, you know, they can actually regain their sense of equilibrium and do a lot of that themselves, basically.
So what made you want to work at Kidscape?
Well, my background is in psychology, and I've done a lot of work in that child guidance sort of area, but I was always dealing with children who had been either abused or bullied, and I felt that this was a way of using, you know, a lot of my skills and working practically with children, schools, families, young people who needed that kind of support, and also knowing how much strength, despite everything that can go wrong, you know, when you are being bullied, you know, like the bully switching off your lights, bullying destroys people, but actually there are ways of, you know, beginning to be yourself again, and I feel passionate that can be done.
That's, I was saying when I came out of it from the Channel 4 filming that I felt so much better already in myself, and it made me feel so much happier and more confident already, and I was just like, oh. So what has Kidscape achieved so far this year?
This year? One big thing we've achieved is that you met Peter, who's our deputy director, and he brought to Kidscape another arm, if you like, called Youth to Youth. And we finally managed to do all the merger work. You know, there's a lot of bureaucracy, lots of paper, lots of things to sort out. What that's brought to us is a really exciting kind of helpline, which is run by young people, for young people. So typically young people from the age of 16 to about 2021 are actually trained by qualified counsellors to listen to young people who phone in about all sorts of issues. And that's something, you know, we've had the Parents Helpline for a long time. We talk to young people on that, but this is actually run by young people for young people. So the Youth to Youth, which the name obviously implies, advisors talk to young people from about 11 to right through the age group, and that is so powerful. I'm really proud of that we now have a way of getting to young people more directly, using Skype, using you know, obviously the email, using online chat, all the ways young people communicate. And it's brought 54 young volunteers to Kidscape, and it's one of my missions is to make Kidscape young and vibrant.
So you were just saying a little bit about the parent helpline. Do you want to give a little bit more background on what that is?
In fact, Kidscape, when it was set up in 1884-5, was one of the first charities, because it existed before Childline, that provided a direct parents helpline. So obviously, when a young person is being bullied, the parents would be in a very, very big sort of quandary about what to do next, and it's harrowing to have your child in that situation. So the Parents Helpline is just really a big support system for parents and families, and you know, the helpline of course backs that up. So the Parents Helpline wouldn't be open at midnight, but the website would have quite a lot of information, which would then encourage, I hope, the parent to phone the helpline. It is a conduit for support, practical support. Our advisors talk to parents right through the steps of what to do and how to get help, not just from Kidscape but from other organisations, how to cope with the demands of the school, if the school's in denial, for instance, and so on. It is quite a good resource. It's also used by teachers and others who want ideas. For instance, Anti-Bullying Week. You know, we have a whole section on our website about resources for this week, and sort of ideas and it's an adult helpline, mainly used by parents, grandparents, families of people who've been bullied and abused.
So you were just saying a bit more about the schools being in denial. Do you get a lot of that, where the schools don't like to admit that they have a bullying problem?
Because, in a sense, it is I suppose a situation whereby we're going to have the worst cases phone us. You know, I don't know how representative that is, but we get about 6,000–7,000 calls a year. We used to get many more. We now have, there are Rive, if you like, I don't like to use the word, but there are other sites that people can phone. But we seem to get the most extreme cases. So in a way, it is just a situation whereby, because we exist in that way, you know, the people who phone us are in that situation. So we get a high percentage of parents who have not been able to get support because the school sometimes is very interested in their own reputation, maybe, or they try to make, they pathologise it. By that I mean the child victim or target becomes almost the person who is at the root of it, you know. In a way you're too sensitive, or, you know, in a way they have to try and make a case whereby the victim is somehow having to do some work through it, and they're not maybe always looking at the root cause. You know, the school isn't safe for the child, say.
So you do ZAP courses, do you go to school your ZAP courses?
Yes, I mean the sort of ZAP that you experienced was the one that we do here, which is the more therapeutic version. Yes, we do. Our trainers would also typically go into a school and work with a whole year group sometimes. We believe very much that you can do a lot of good during the transition period, you know, when children go from primary to secondary. And that is, it's not unknown for our trainers to go into year 6, say, and do the whole of year 6, or the year 7s after they've been in school for a few weeks, just to give them those skills and those tools.
So with ZAP, what do you do when you go into the schools, into the groups?
Sometimes, if we're asked to go into a school because there is already a problem, it would be working with the targets and you know, giving them the toolbox, really, giving them the skills to be assertive, looking at what the concerns are. The ZAP in schools, I have to say, when we're asked to go in to solve things, we would actually change them according to the need. So the head teacher and the head of year, it depends which kind of school setup we have, but typically the people interested in the whole child and the pastoral development of the school, they would give us a brief. But it's about working with young people on friendship skills, conflict resolution, you know, relaxation techniques, also the sort of things that, you know, some of which you did, to help make the situation easier and better. Also a lot of staff training. So you don't want to go in like a troubleshooter in the 18 once, and you help those children in that class maybe, but we want to leave something. So we always try and work with professionals in the school who'll be able to carry it on. But ZAP also exists as a separate thing, which people from the helpline, you know, like if your mum phoned and was very worried about you or someone else, then we would say, well, we do have this ZAP session, and there's from children from all over the country come, and that's mainly for people we try, you know, that's where we haven't been able to catch them in time, and something, you know, we have a lot of people come to ZAP who might have self-harmed, people whose health has begun to suffer, their self-esteem is very low, and they're really not achieving what they want to achieve, or they're quite ill in some way. Or, you know, if we don't do ZAP soon, you know, they're probably truant, or, you know, they'll school refuse because they can't face school. So it has these different models, and we've spread ZAP quite across the country now because people have been trained. We do training here for people who go into schools, basically maybe like victim support even, or Relate, or other agencies, the NSPCC. People go into schools to work on other issues maybe. Connections advisors work more and more talking to young people. We give them the ZAP skills so that if a young person refers to them as also being bullied amongst other things, they've got some tools.
So what would you give, what advice would you give to anybody being bullied?
One of the greatest, I'll be honest with you, one of my greatest sadnesses is that people who are bullied don't always have, for all sorts of reasons, the inclination or maybe the facility to tell. So many young children keep it to themselves for too long. I've known people to keep to themselves for 2 or 3 years, and it's only after a parent has found some cutting or some self-harm going on that they actually realise it's an awful situation is happening. My biggest piece of advice is to really tell someone. They may not be able to, they may not be, in a situation where they have a supportive adult, sadly, maybe at home. Maybe the first teacher they tell doesn't listen, or is in denial, or doesn't do anything helpful. I know one teacher who thought she was being helpful by going to grab the bully by the scruff of the neck and saying, I've heard you're bullying X. And of course, the bully was then so angry that X was bullied even more, especially after school. So the first thing I would say is tell until someone believes you. You don't deserve to be bullied. No one does. Just, please, just find someone to help you. And also, don't, if possible, it's about not letting the bullies take over your whole life, and you begin to think that everything they say is true, and they reduce you to a shriveling kind of mass of a shriveling mass of not believing in yourself, and almost a self-destructive cycle begins to develop. Sorry.
Well, I found that with my Tuesday video. I got in a load of different bullying stories. People sent me their stories, and a lot of them haven't told their parents they're being bullied, and a few of them have even said I'm only like the third person that they've told have been bullied. And it is, some of the stories can get really upsetting, and some of them are just awful.
I think that's very humbling when you're told someone who's suffered so much, and then they say, you're the first or the second person only I've told. And you think they are surrounded by, hopefully, some good and positive, adults who should be able to help. So yes, I think it's tragic, really, that when we see children in that situation, and we see children in that situation from about the age of 8, and they're telling us their lives are almost worthless, which is, to see a young, almost, they've hardly started their life cycle. It is horrendous.
Well, I had one girl who sent me in her story, and she said she tried to hang herself at 7.
Yeah,
and it just, and I sometimes don't understand how they can sort of trust me. So it's being a stranger on the internet to a lot of them as well, and being sort of like the third person that they've told is being bullied.
Yes.
But yeah, I filmed that video so many times, the Tuesday video, because it keeps tearing up every time I try to film it.
One thing I have found in my work too, Rachel, is that, and not just in Kidscape, but in another work too, that it's like the stranger on the train syndrome. Sometimes it's a lot easier to tell someone who isn't connected to you, and that's one of the powers of Zap. People making new friends who are not actually within their circle, and it's a kind of that freshness. You need someone neutral almost. And that's well known, that sometimes it's much easier to talk to someone who isn't close to you, and sometimes that stranger is the one who will listen. That's why when we do training in schools, we don't just train, or we talk to head teachers, depends on what they allow us to do, but we say, no, your dinner ladies, your librarian, your school nurse, because who knows who that child will find. They may not like their tutor may not be the sort of person who relates to children. He or she may be someone who likes their subject and they're good teachers in that sense, but they're not equipped maybe to be that listener that you really need.
And I've also found a lot recently as well with this sort of when people tell other people that I found in all the stories that some of the bullying will then eventually get worse because, of course, it's sort of snitching, basically. And I found that when I was at school as well. You'd tell a teacher and the bullying would get worse. And I think that's really annoying, if annoying is the word, because the teacher should sort of be there to protect the person that's told them instead of letting the bullying get worse.
And I think that's the kind of double whammy. You probably haven't been able to tell, and then when you finally put up the courage to do that, that in itself becomes an instrument of further torture. I think if I had a dream, I would want all schools to be schools in which it is safe to tell, because it's a culture thing. I know that you're right. I mean, some young people would say that they told once and it got much worse and they'll never tell again, either because the adult let them down and didn't do anything useful, or, as you say, it got worse. But I mean, if you're going to be a school where telling is encouraged, that isn't enough. you've got to make it safe to tell. You've got to have safe ways of telling, which don't immediately put the victim at risk. And I think that some schools who do that well will have ways of dealing with it which don't implicate the victim. And indeed create a culture where the bullies are in such a minority that creating a situation where you bully someone and then threaten them not to tell doesn't work, because they know that the majority will actually talk.
So yeah, that was my interview with Claude. I just want to quickly thank her so much, because of course you let me have a couple of hours of your time, and you were really lovely, and it was so lovely to see her again. So yeah, I just wanted to add another quick bit in, that Kidscape have a website, a Twitter feed and a Facebook page, so if you want to go find any of those, all the links are down here in this tab, and you can go chat to them because they are really lovely and supportive. So yeah, bye.